Begin, we want to make sure you know exactly who is on the ballot and what you'll be voting for here when it comes to that primary in June. First off is, what is an auditor? What do they do here in the city of Albany? They lead the Office of Audit and Control, providing independent oversight of the city's operations and departments, providing transparency, efficiency, and effectiveness. As you followed this over the course of the last decade or so, or the way this has been formed in the last few years, the American Rescue Plan Act tracker is something that they've done, the City of Albany Equity Audit, the Albany Police Department Racial Bias Audit, and also the Ready, Set, Go Youth Program, just to name a few of the things that this office does. Now, let's begin the Albany Chief City Auditor Democratic primary debate. All right, let's begin now with our three candidates that are on the Democratic primary ballot. We'll go from left to right to begin here. This is Sam Fein, David Galin, and John Rosenzweig. Thank you all for coming on with us here tonight.
Thank you for having us.
All right, we'll start with the ground rules that were all agreed upon before we started here this evening. Opening and closing statements will be 45 seconds apiece, of course, beginning and ending our program. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each of our questions, and then there will be an opportunity for a 30-second rebuttal from those that want to rebut potentially a question or two as we go along. No notes allowed, but they have been provided with pens and notepads to take notes here throughout. So if you guys are ready, so are we. Thank you so much again for joining us here tonight. We'll begin with the first question. The city auditor, maybe not the most flashiest of positions here in the city of Albany, or the county for that matter, but we want you to know, first of all, I apologize, opening statements first. Thank you for that quizzical look by all three of you. Let's start left to right. Sam Fein, begin with your opening statement. You have 45 seconds.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Sam Fein, and on June 24th, you have a choice between politics as usual or a bold new vision for Albany. We need a city government that listens and takes action. I've worked in the city auditor's office. I'm the only candidate with direct experience auditing city departments. I've served 9 years as an Albany County legislator, and I'm currently a policy director in the New York State Senate. Also have a master's in public administration from Rockefeller College. I'm running for city auditor to make city government work for you and to bring true transparency and accountability and real results for residents of Albany. I'm looking forward to sharing my vision tonight for a stronger Albany that starts with all of us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fein. Mr. Galin, you have 45 seconds.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and thank you to Channel 6 for heeding my call to host this important debate. My name is David Galin, and as the son of a union mechanic, I've dedicated my entire life to public service. It's why I'm an Eagle Scout, it's why I moved to Albany for college and stayed to become an attorney, and it's why I have served the residents of the city of Albany every day for the last 10 years. In my role as Chief of Staff, I've helped right-size the budget, lead our city through a pandemic, and work with both our department heads and our frontline heroes to more efficiently deliver essential city services. To be an effective chief city auditor, you need to be able to listen, be compassionate, and solve problems. And that's exactly what I've done every single day. I look forward to sharing with you over the next hour why I want to be your watchdog and your advocate as our next chief city auditor.
Thank you, Mr. Galin. Mr. Rosenzweig, you have 45 seconds.
Good evening, Albany. I'm John Rosenzweig, your Democrat-endorsed candidate for Chief City Auditor. I raised my family in our great capital city, along with my late wife, Tori. I've taught in the Albany City School District for the past 31 years. I am a proud union member of APSTA and the Laborers Local 190. I'm a two-term Common Council member who actually brought transparency to city government as the chairman of the ad hoc committee for public access television. I am proud of those results back then, and you can expect those same results from me moving forward. I've heard your voices at the door, Albany. I know that it's time for a change.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rosenzweig. We do begin with that first question now, without any further ado at that. You heard what I was getting at. The city auditor, maybe not the flashiest position of mayor or maybe a county legislator, if you will, but let's start with why voters should care about this position and what a city auditor does. We will begin here with Mr. Rosenzweig. You have up to a minute.
Thank you. The chief city auditor, first and foremost, is independent of the mayor's office and the treasurer's office. The chief city auditor is responsible for looking at all accounts payable in the city and all accounts receivable in the city, and of course doing audits on our departments and other functions of the city. The most important part of being the auditor is being a tool to help guide policy in the city. Although not a policy maker, the outcomes of audits can certainly guide us in a direction. I look to be a robust auditor in the office. I think there's a lot more that the city can do with the help of the city auditor being active. There's been several audits over the past few years, and I think the big part and the most important part of audits is that they are acted on. I want to work with a mandate from the people of the city of Albany, and I want to make sure that my audits are acted on.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenzweig. Mr. Fein, you have up to 1 minute. Why should people care about the city auditor?
The city auditor is a fundamental role in city government, providing independent oversight of city departments, mayor's office, treasurer's office, the common council. And as city auditor, I will ensure that every tax dollar spent is tracked and shared with the public, and that every tax dollar is delivering real results for residents throughout Albany. When I worked in the city auditor's office, I remember a time when we recovered thousands of dollars that a contractor was overcharging the city. So one of the fundamental roles of the office is to review every invoice from every city department and approve it before it's spent. And so we found that a contractor was overcharging the city based upon the contract that the city had agreed to. This is the type of experience and the type of vision that I'm going to bring to that role. I'm ready to hit the ground running on day one, and I'm going to work to improve how city services are delivered for all residents of the city.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fein. Mr. Galin, why should voters care about who the city auditor is? You have up to a minute.
Well, again, I think we've heard a lot about the statutory requirements of the auditor. Again, to make it very simple, the auditor pays the bills, audits investments that the treasurer makes, and then audits the processes and service delivery that the departments make every single day. And why it matters is because the auditor has a role in improving public safety, in addressing quality of life concerns and making it faster so that we're responding to see-click-fix concerns quicker, that we're addressing vacant buildings, illegal trash, blight, faster than what we had previously. It's also really important to cut red tape. The auditor is a person who takes a deep dive at the processes and says, we have 10 different steps here, and many of them are archaic, many of them are unnecessary, and then works with the administration to implement those. And then finally, really, it's to pay the bills. As a member of the administration currently, I've been very frustrated by the amount of time it takes us to pay our bills. It sounds simple, but it takes a lot of time, especially when vendors or small businesses are loaning money basically to the city to lay out services, and that's something that addresses everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Galin. Anyone else would like to speak? Up to 30 seconds for a rebuttal. Okay, we'll move on to the second question here. What's the first issue that you would address as auditor? So we get to the issues now here. Mr. Galin, you can start up to a minute.
Okay, well, I'm going to talk about a few different issues that I want to address up front. First and foremost, when I spoke about public safety, when I become city auditor, one of the first things I want to look at is whether it is the right decision to make a $12 million investment to lift the 20-year cap on police officers and earning their retirement. Right now, we have, as we all know, a shortage of police officers. And yesterday, we were lucky enough to swear in 15 new officers, one of the most diverse classes our police department's ever seen. But we know it's not enough. We want to retain the officers who have gone through our academy, gone through years of training, understand our communities, and so that's one of the first issues that I want to tackle, is to help make sure that our retirement for our officers is an incentive that keeps them here. Also, I want to do an audit of see-click-fix. We've improved response times by 80%, but we know there's more work to do to fill potholes faster, address trees, address blight, address vacant and abandoned buildings. And with that comes the question of why Albany County is taking so long to foreclose on tax delinquent properties. Those are just three of the things that I want to tackle on day one.
Thank you, Mr. Galin. Mr. Rosenzweig, you have a minute to address the first issue that you would address as city auditor.
Thank you. As city auditor, I will address public safety. We hear that there's a perception that the city isn't safe, and it's obviously something that we have to take a look at. I'm particularly concerned with our inability to hire police historically in these past 10 years, and our ability to retain police on the police force. When I served on the Common Council from 06 to 13, our department was one that many people from many departments laterally transferred into. Now it's not quite the same. Unfortunately, we're finding that our officers are oftentimes transferring out to other municipalities. I think we need to address that by having a conversation with the men and women in uniform It's one of the things that we really haven't heard much about when we talk about public safety. I want to hear what the men and women in uniform have to say. That's how you make an informed decision. That's how you exact change.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenzweig. Mr. Fein, what's the first issue that you would address as city auditor? You have up to a minute.
I would address the delivery of basic fundamental city services and how the city responds to basic things like filling potholes, paving streets, and clearing snow and fixing up sidewalks. I have a constituent who reached out to me recently because she has broken glass on her sidewalk outside her home. She walks her dog there every day, and she's worried about the dog getting injured, and she's reported it to the city using See-Click-Fix, and over 2 weeks later, it still isn't addressed. And these are the type of stories I hear often in the city of Albany. There's been a controversy we all know about the See-Click-Fix, an app that you can use to report problems like this on your phone. Instead of the city actually addressing the problem of the length of time it takes to address issues, the city removed liability from themselves. So I would conduct an audit of See-Click-Fix, an audit of our response times, and improve the processes within those departments so that we're delivering services in a timely manner, because that's fundamentally important for the people of Albany.
Thank you, Mr. Fein. Mr. Galin, Mr. Rosenzweig, Mr. Galin, you addressed See-Click-Fix a moment ago. Would you like an opportunity to respond for 30 seconds?
Sure.
Okay.
Again, we addressed that issue that Mr. Fein spoke of already. It's been taken care of. And then, again, to address the concern that Mr. Rosenzweig brought up, we already hear from our police officers. We do exit interviews. We meet with the unions. We have labor management meetings. We understand why we are having a hard time recruiting and retaining, which is why we now do 2 civil service exams a year. We go out in our community and recruit people. And again, this retirement issue is the thing that we hear time and time again, particularly when it comes to people who fall under Tier 6.
Mr. Rosenzweig, want an opportunity to respond to that?
Well, I agree, and I'm happy with the fact that we are holding more classes. It only makes sense for us to work in that fashion. If you see a problem, you need to understand what the root cause is, and then you have to address it. I'm glad that the city's on board with that now.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenzweig. Mr. Fein, See-Click-Fix or maybe even police retention?
I'd just like to respond and say that we as a city government need to acknowledge the way that people feel, the experiences that they have, and then respond to it. And the fact that my constituent didn't see that glass picked on the sidewalk shows that there are real problems, and there's always room for improvement, and we need to take action and fix that in city government, and that's why I'm running for city auditor.
All right, now we will get to some specific questions for each individual candidate. So this one's a little bit different than our first 2. I'm asking you to directly respond to this inquiry. We'll start with Mr. Fein. You have been on the county legislature almost a decade now, you could say, and in recent years, the legislature has been criticized, the Democrats in particular, for a lack of transparency when making some decisions about a variety of issues. As a Democrat yourself that sits on the county legislature, how do you respond to that under the guise of the role that the auditor would play in the city of Albany?
Serving on the Albany County Legislature over the past 9 years, I've had a strong record of independence, a strong record of holding people in power accountable, and being unafraid to ask the tough questions. Most recently, I've been helping tenants at Ida Yarborough Public Housing in my district organize into a tenants union because the Housing Authority was not addressing their concerns about serious issues with unsanitary and unsafe conditions. This is the kind of approach that I'm going to bring to this office because it's what I've always done. We need a city auditor that is independent and that will push back against the status quo. I'm proud of my work on the Albany County Legislature over the past 9 years, and proud that I've stood up to push for change, to fight for things like protecting tenants from eviction, protecting and supporting small businesses, and really fighting to bring resources into one of the most underserved communities in Albany, the south end of Albany, Arbor Hill, downtown, where I represent.
Thank you, Mr. Fein. Mr. Rosenzweig, you've been out of office now in government for the city, particularly for more than a decade. How do you plan to re-enter under potentially a different political landscape than you exited more than a decade ago?
Thank you. Well, as an educator for the past 31 years in the Albany City School District, I've had the pleasure to serve 22 of those years as a math teacher and the last 9 years as an attendance officer. In working in attendance, I have been blessed with the opportunity to help our families in every corner of this city. As you can imagine, the root causes of attendance issues are oftentimes poverty and housing instability. I have been blessed with an opportunity to use the fine resources of the Albany City School District to make housing referrals, to bring food to our students and their families, and clothing as well. That keeps me in tune with the temperature of this city. I like to say, at Albany High School, I see the temperature of our city walk in that door every day. And every day, I am ready to meet our students where they're at. So I might have been out, but I haven't been out of our city.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rosenzweig. Now to Mr. Galin. You have had to defend the city's actions over the course of the last, you could say, maybe decade, at least 5 years as the chief of staff for Albany Mayor Kathy Sheehan. How do you remove bias from people and organizations that you'll now be investigating?
It's a great question. Thank you. Again, I'm already doing this work every single day. In my role as chief of staff, we knew that we were not addressing quality of life concerns fast enough. And that's why we worked with multiple departments as well as the Common Council to create a new Department of Neighborhood Services. It brought all of our see-click-fix processes under one roof. And again, it's improved our response times by 80%. That is what accountability looks like. I was part of the group that made sure we were investing our $80 million from the American Rescue Plan funding equitably and decisively. And I'm proud to report that we spent every single dollar. It's been invested in more than $25 million in capital projects, including a new West Hill Community Center, a new Hoffman Park Rec Center, and we've really made transformational investments across the city. And finally, when we have issues within our administration, we take action. Just last year, we had a constituent come to us and say that they suspected fraud in our lead service replacement program. So we hired an outside third party, we conducted an investigation, and we quickly implemented the recommendations that were delivered to us. That is accountability.
Thank you, Mr. Galin. Up to 30 seconds. Anybody have anything to add on any of the questions they were asked or what another candidate was asked? Okay. That'll send us to our first break here. Thanks so much for joining us. Much more to come when we continue this CBS 6 Power and Politics debate. We've reached the top of the hour. Welcome back to the special broadcast here on CBS 6, the Power and Politics Debate. This is the Albany Chief City Auditor Democratic primary. Our three candidates are here, Sam Fein, David Galin, and John Rosenzweig. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight. And thank you all for joining us here. We've gone now for the first 20 minutes or so. We'll continue now with our next question here on the day. So right now, the federal government is doing what some are calling its own audit of a bunch of full services, staff, and what have you, calling it the Department of Government Efficiency. Some call it DOGE. Whether or not you agree with how they're carrying it out, how would you approach, and do you have an approach to maybe a department or an office here in the city that you think could be streamlined and be made more efficient and maybe even cut moving forward? Mr. Fein, we start with you, up to a minute.
What is going on at the federal government is the exact wrong approach for what we need in city government. Look, people want things to be more efficient and effective, and that's what I'm going to bring as city auditor. But people don't want to see programs just axed and fundamental services that people rely on being cut. What we need to do is go in and audit and find ways that we can deliver services better, make government more efficient and effective, and better serve the people of Albany. One thing that I would do is take a look at the school speed cameras. The school speed cameras, people here may have gotten them, $50 ticket if you drive through. It's a good thing in the fact that we're providing safety to school children, and that's a fundamentally important thing, except only $17 out of every ticket is actually going in revenue to the city of Albany. The rest is being kept by the company. So we need to audit that process, look at the contract, and find out and make sure we can get the best deal for city residents.
Thank you, Mr. Fein. Mr. Galin, same question. Is there an office or department in the city that you could streamline, make more efficient, or provide cuts to?
I just want to say at the outset, I went to North Carolina to work on the Kamala Harris and Tim Walz campaign, and I vehemently disagree with the way that the Trump administration is cutting our agencies at the federal level. That being said, I've already been doing this work for the last 10 years. I understand that to make government more efficient, you have to work with both the department heads and the frontline employees to understand exactly how the process works. Some of our most important and effective efficiencies that we gathered, particularly, again, around See-Click-Fix, was when we got the entire group of people who use the program in a room, particularly the frontline employees who are receiving complaints, who are issuing work orders, and who are dispatching employees, to make sure that we were being as streamlined as possible. And so one of the first things I would look at is we have a utility. We maintain our own streetlights. It's currently under the Department of Administrative Services. It really seems to make more sense in a department like a Public Works Department, where we can bring in other services like that and be more efficient and effective and make sure that we're not haphazardly placing different services under different roofs for no reason.
Thank you, Mr. Galin. Same question, Mr. Rosenzweig. Is there a department, an office within the city that you think you could streamline, make more efficient, or provide cuts to?
I haven't identified a department that I think that we could make cuts to, but I have thought about a concept on how we could make things more efficient in the city, that's for sure. When I look at DGS, I want to first say that I appreciate the work of the men and women at DGS. You do work that keeps our city running, so I thank you. But one of the things that I would like to look at is our street paving. In the current day, we have street pavers that are done on contract, and we have street paving that is done by our city workforce. We all know that potholes are an issue, so I'm not quite sure why we haven't gotten down to the brass tacks of looking at the work that's done between our in-house employees and our contract work and take a look at what's holding up. Because as we all know, we can get a brand new street paved right in front of our house, and then they're digging the next day. So let's take a look at that so we can make that more efficient.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenzweig. And for that question, up to 30 seconds, if anybody is interested in speaking. Mr. Galin?
Again, I think Mr. Rosenzweig's idea is a great one, and I'm happy to report we already do it. We have moved everything to a contracted type of street paving so that we are more effective and efficient. We also have our Department of General Services working hand in hand this year with our Department of Engineering, the department that actually oversees street paving now, and our Water Department, so that we're going in ahead of when we pave streets to replace our lead services that are going to homes that are 100 years old and where people have lead pipes that are literally running to their home. We have already done the work of streamlining some of these services. And again, I think it's just another...
Thank you, Mr. Galin. Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Yes, if I'm to understand by that the city no longer does in-house paving, then I'm interested to know, and I might want to audit the equipment that we have, because there's some quite pricey equipment on pulling up blacktop and laying it down. And I would make sure that that's utilized for a different use, or that it was sold and we could take some money away from it. Thank you.
Mr. Fein, you did start the debate talking about potholes. Would you like to address that at all?
I'll just say that we really do need to listen to how people feel in this city, because when I talk to people, they don't feel that the city is doing well. They don't feel that they're being responded to properly and that their issues are addressed. And from the basic services like fixing potholes and paving streets are important, not only because people drive on those streets, but how are people going to trust that we're going to solve the larger issues like public safety, like housing affordability, if we can't get the basics right?
Thank you, Mr. Fein. The next question we have is about the $200 million that's in the state budget that's going to the city of Albany. What role will your office play in implementing that funding and watching over that funding at the end of the day? Mr. Galin, we start with you.
Sure. Well, I'm proud that I'm currently working with Empire State Development and the governor's office to understand how the $400 million, some of it will go to the museum, the rest to downtown, how it will be invested. But the real answer is that the city of Albany is going to receive little, if not any, of the funding directly. It's going to be controlled by New York State. However, as a citywide elected official, and most importantly as an advocate, when I become Chief City Auditor, I'm going to be one of the loudest voices to say that we need to use this $400 million to help invest in building new housing, to make sure that we're supporting our small businesses that are downtown and getting more feet on the street. We're going to make sure that we're attracting world-class opportunities, and also so that we're creating good-paying jobs. This $400 million is very similar to the $80 million from the American Rescue Plan, and it's once in a generation. It's magnitude of 4, and we have to make sure that we get it right. And again, as being a chief city auditor means that you're an advocate, it means you're a voice, and it means you're standing up and saying the things that sometimes people don't want to hear.
Thank you, Mr. Galin. There is the ARPA tracker that we've seen on the auditor website, which we mentioned here at the top of our broadcast. Mr. Rosenzweig, that $200 million, what role would your auditor's office play in overseeing that money?
Well, the role of the Chief City Auditor's office would be to do audits. And in that realm, the reality of the Chief City Auditor, what I could do is take a look at any projects that come into the city. Oftentimes, projects that are associated with government money have pilots, payments in lieu of taxes, or they have other strings, let's say, tied to them. I would make sure, as your Chief City Auditor, that the projects were getting done on budget and on time, but I would also make sure that any agreements that have been made between the city and the builder have been adhered to. When we use this money, it's a one-time deal, and we have to make sure that we are getting our value so we can move this city forward. I would make sure that the monies are spent in an appropriate way, in an appropriate time, and that any jobs that might be associated to the building are going to be present in the final product.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenzweig. Same question to you, Mr. Fein. Up to a minute. What role would your office play in the $200 million allocated for the city of Albany?
This $200 million is a transformational opportunity for the city of Albany, and the city auditor has a fundamental role in tracking where that money is spent and being transparent with the people. The city auditor, there's going to be a lot of proposals out there, right? The governor's office is probably, and Empire State Development are going to have a major role in it. But the auditor can provide transparency and ensure that that money's being spent in the right way and providing real improvements throughout every neighborhood in our city. I also think we need to make sure that that money has an impact beyond just downtown and to the neighborhoods around it. You know, I've spoken to business owners, small business owners downtown. They want to see investments to address homelessness downtown, to provide housing and services for people, public safety. But we also need to invest in housing in the neighborhoods around downtown to help revitalize them and improve conditions for people.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fein. Anything else to add to that? Okay, we do have to get to a break. The CBS 6 Power and Politics debate will be back in a moment. Welcome back to the CBS 6 Power and Politics debate. I'm the moderator, Tom Eschen, here tonight for the Albany Chief City Auditor Democratic primary. The three candidates that are on the Democratic ballot here coming up on June 24th, Sam Fein, David Galin, and John Rosenzweig. We appreciate you being with us, and thank you, of course, for being with us here tonight as well. All right, we continue our questioning now. With the Common Council here in Albany forming an Ethics and Workforce Culture Ad Hoc Committee, they're investigating right now allegations by city employees, workforce discrimination, violence, bribery, and trading sex, drugs, and alcohol in exchange for no-show overtime. How do you fix that? Up to a minute, Mr. Rosenzweig.
Thank you. First of all, if I was the Chief City Auditor, that would be being done in my office. I think that these accusations are certainly something that needs to be looked into, and we need to get to the bottom of it. We can't operate as a city when there's no leadership at the top. So this is where the independence of the Chief City Auditor's role comes into play and can help direct what's going to happen in the city and what safeguards we can put in place moving forward. I think that the Common Council is doing a good job with this right now. I have seen them, but I do know, as being a former Common Council member for 2 terms, that their resources are limited. I think this is the type of challenge that would need every resource in the city put on it. And as your next Chief City Auditor, I would be doing that up front. There is a way out of this. We have to work together.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenzweig. Mr. Galin, those allegations, accusations that are being investigated by this council committee, how do you fix that as potentially the Chief City Auditor?
Again, I agree with Mr. Rosenzweig that you have to put resources to it, but I vehemently disagree with the politicizing of personnel matters, particularly in a city where it's a small workforce and people are often related or know one another. As Chief City Auditor, I would hire an independent third party to review the accusations that are made, and that's exactly what's been taking place currently. The administration hired an outside third party. The outside third party did an investigation. They set forth recommendations that included enhancing training, which has already been implemented. And I'm proud to report that recently the city and the Blue Collar Union came to an agreement, and the Blue Collar Union withdrew their grievance. So again, this is something that you have to work together on, and you have to take very seriously, because it has to do with safety, it has to do with accusations of fraud and abuse, but politicizing the process is exactly not the way to go about handling situations like this.
Thank you, Mr. Galin. Mr. Fein, how would you fix allegations of a dynamic like this?
And these allegations are unacceptable. We clearly have a problem that we need to investigate in City Hall. And as City Auditor, I would view this as a real call to action for me to take charge and use that independent oversight authority to get to the bottom of this and figure out what's going on. You know, that those employees who made those allegations deserve to have their voice heard, they deserve an investigation, and they deserve a resolution. And the City Auditor's Office exists to be that independent oversight, to provide that accountability and that transparency to the public. So as City Auditor, I would conduct an investigation, and the public would know what's happening with that investigation. Those results would be made clear, and we'd push to take action, communicate that to the public, and push to take action.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fein. Anyone want to offer a rebuttal to that? Up to 30 seconds.
Yes.
Mr. Rosenzweig.
Thank you. I commend the city for putting forth an audit, and I feel that it's appropriate. I'm just not understanding what the findings are, and I think that transparency should reign above all. So the communication of things needs to be appropriate so that everybody in the city has an understanding of how this is operating. I do commend the city, though, for putting forth an audit.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rosenzweig. Mr. Galin?
Yeah, I just want to point out, these are personnel matters that are highly confidential, and in an attempt particularly to protect the people who file the complaints. Transparency is important and accountability is paramount, but it's also important to protect the people who come forward and levy these complaints, because we want to make sure that we're protecting the whistleblowers. So yes, again, there has been recommendations in terms of training, and those recommendations have been implemented, but it's also where the city's responsibility is not to broadcast who came forward and blow by blow, particularly what's been done, because again, it's trying to protect the people who come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Galin. We appreciate that. Mr. Fein, anything to add to that?
Just that transparency doesn't mean that if there's sensitive information, you can still conduct an audit without sharing that sensitive information with people. But an investigation is still important, and you can look at the systems within that department and ensure that this doesn't happen again. You put the systems in place so that it doesn't happen again, and you also ensure that there's proper ways for employees to report issues like this and make sure that their voices are heard and the matter is addressed.
Is there a role the office can play, and you have up to 30 seconds to respond to this, the office can play to get ahead of this before the council has to take their own investigation into their hands?
Yeah, again, I think one of the audits that the Chief City Auditor can do is compliance with the trainings that are required and the trainings that are offered across the city. This is something that helps our supervisors, it helps the frontline employees understand what the process is. Education, I think, is paramount, and I want to commend John for Teacher Appreciation Week. But again, doing an audit of the training, I think, is where you can really start. Who is complying, who's doing it, and who hasn't, so we can make sure we're bringing the training directly to the employees.
Mr. Rosenzweig, you looked at me when I answered that question.
Yes.
Like you wanted to answer?
Yes, I appreciate that question. As your next Chief City Auditor, I will set up a whistleblower line so that I can get direct communication with any employee in the city. Obviously, confidentiality will be kept, but you know, it's important that there's a dialogue, not just between the auditor and the department heads or the mayor or the treasurer. It's important that the worker in the department has an opportunity to let people know what is going on. That communication will help move our city forward.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rosenzweig. We appreciate that. We do have to get to a break right now. The CBS 6 Power and Politics debate continues after this. Welcome back to the CBS 6 Power and Politics debate. This is our last segment of the show for the Albany Chief City Auditor, the Democratic primary. Our three candidates on the ballot are here. They'll be on the ballot on June 24th. We will commence now with our speed round. These are more rapid-fire questions, quick answers, so we can get to as many as we can in the time we have allotted. So we'll start with question number 1. We'll go from right to left here to start. Which mayoral candidate do you align with the most here that's on the Democratic primary in the June election? John.
Thank you. As Chief City Auditor, my independence is paramount. I will support any mayor in the capacity of City Auditor, but I am not supporting any candidates at this time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Galin.
Again, independence, accountability. You're the person that's the watchdog and the advocate. I'm ready to work with whomever the next mayor is, and also not endorsing any particular candidate.
Thank you, Mr. Galin. Mr. Fein.
Same. The auditor is an independent position, has oversight over the mayor and the mayor's departments, and it's important that the auditor stays independent and is unbiased in conducting those audits.
All right, we'll go now from left to right. Where would you prioritize the city's parking issues that we've been told about in terms of a potential audit if you were to be elected? Sam?
Well, I think, this is something that I've heard about from small businesses downtown. They often talk about parking, and I think it's a real concern. But I also think we need to prioritize making our communities more walkable and pedestrian-friendly.
Thank you, Sam. Mr. Galin?
Oh, lightning round.
Yeah, okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we really have to focus on walkability, and one of the first things you do is bring more housing downtown. That brings people on the street. You don't need a car if you're living downtown. Again, I think it's one of the ways to address the parking issue.
Mr. Rosenzweig.
Parking is definitely an issue, and we have to address it. That should be addressed through policy, and I don't think that we need an audit to make clear that we need parking in the city.
Okay, that's all we had time for with our speed round. That's why it goes so fast. Now with our closing statements, Mr. Rosenzweig, you have up to 45 seconds.
Thank you. Thank you, Albany, for tuning in. I need to start by saying that I'm not running for office to manage a perception. I am running for office to make changes that benefit you. Everyone knows that an audit that sits on a shelf has no value. With me as Chief City Auditor, that will not be the case. If we want change, real change, it starts with transparency. And I need you to know that if I do an audit and something doesn't shine in the light of day, you need to know about it so that we don't have that in our future, Albany. I will stand alone. I will do what's right to stand up for you.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenzweig. Mr. Galin.
Look, every day since January 20th, we've seen how negatively our lives are impacted when government is run by people who don't understand how government works. And I'm the only person running for Chief City Auditor who served one day leading the city, never mind the last 10 years. But I'm not here because I'm a career politician. I'm here because I'm a career public servant. I'm running for Chief City Auditor because I care about the city, I call it my home, and I truly believe our future has never been brighter. So I hope you will visit my website, albanysavewithdave.com, to learn more about how I want to be your watchdog and your advocate as the next Chief City Auditor. And I thank everyone for tuning in this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Galin. Mr. Fein, 45 seconds.
I want to thank everyone who's listening tonight, whether in the studio or here at home. And I'm running for City Auditor because I want to improve how this city works for everyone. Now, I've experienced working directly in the office. I really understand how that office works, whether it's from reviewing every invoice the city spends and finding how to save taxpayers money, or conducting audits of city departments and improving the delivery of services. But this position is about more than just experience. It's about being willing to challenge the status quo and being willing to hold power accountable. And that's what I've proven over the past 9 years as a county legislator. I'm ready to hit the ground running on day one, and I'm going to work as hard as I can to improve this city for everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Fein. We really appreciate it. Thank you all for participating here tonight. We really appreciate that as well. June 24th is primary day for this, and of course, the mayoral election we held the debate for last week. You can see that on our website, cbs6albany.com. But for now, good night.